So welcome everyone to SOTC 2021 Treasurer Training and Club Finances. I am Austin Harrington, the current uh, Capital District Secretary Treasurer. And so uh, this is for those of you who are incoming treasurers. So this presentation will be shared as like in a recap email and so when you get a chance to look at it, also be sure to read the notes section in each slide. So things that we're going to cover today, reading and writing a check, keeping track of funds, how to pay dues, and just some additional tips. So for reading and writing a check. So as you all have been starting your adult lives, I don't know if you've written a check before, but so I'll just go over the basic, like what everything is. So at the one, you have the date. It's pretty self-explanatory, the day that you write the check. Number two, you have uh, the group or person, whatever that you are giving the check to. Three, you have the number amount of how much you are paying. Four, you have the written out amount that you're paying. So like in this case, the dollar amount is $8.15. And so you would write 8 and 15 out of 100 to represent $8.15. Number 5 is where your signature goes. And then number 6 is basically what it's for. When you're depositing a check, you want to make sure that you write for deposit only, and then for since it's coming from your club's bank account, you would write uh, the name of your club. So in the example, you would write for deposit only, University of Maryland CKI. So keeping track of club funds is next. So with uh, anything dealing with money, you want to make sure keeping track of money. You want to make sure that you have uh, lots of Excel spreadsheets. When looking at checks, you want to have a column for the check number, the date that the check was signed, a little description. Um, if it is a check, you want to have a column for your spending with whatever the amount is, as well as a column for any deposits that you make into the bank account, and then a final column to represent just how much money you have. So that way you can always keep track of how much money you have to work with when planning fellowship events, service events, and stuff like that. So now for tracking and organizing reimbursements. So reimbursements are for if a club member wants to be reimbursed for participating in club activities, such as if you have a service event that is maybe an hour away and you're a club member doesn't want to like pay for the gas, you can reimburse them. And so they would fill out a reimbursement. And so you want to make sure that you have folders for each reimbursement and just keep it organized so that you keep track of everything. So steps for reimbursing people. You want to properly label and file the receipt. So like I said, put it into the proper uh, Google folder. Step 2, you want to update the budget for each item amount listed on the receipt. So you want to put in all the expenses for people that are getting reimbursed. Um, and then you want to update the check register with the total amount requested, um, which is, yeah, the same thing. And then uh, step 4, you want to issue the actual payment. You can give it to the person in cash. You can Venmo, Cash App. You can give them a check if they want that. However, they want to accept payment. So, a big important part of being a treasurer is being able to pay dues. Um, and so, here's how to pay dues. So, it involves going to the Membership Update Center on circlek.org. And so, the club treasurer, club secretary, Kiwanis advisor, and faculty advisor are the people who have access to the Membership Update Center. Um, since you all probably recently had elections, um, probably your current president would be the one to update your club officer roster. Um, and so this is how you do it. You would email memberservices@kiwanis.org or call their phone number and then list off all the people, what position, and stuff like that. So to actually access the MUC, you want to, uh, you can either go onto the Circle K website or you can just go directly to reporting.kiwanis1.org. Um, if you're accessing it for the first time, uh, you want to log in and create a password um, using the same email that you have on file with Kiwanis when you were registered as an officer. Uh, Next, when you're actually in the Membership Update Center, it says there's a thing for a background check. You do not need to worry about that. Um, and so you'll see the little button that says Membership Update Center. And then so this part's more for the secretaries. They will add any members of the club and then remove any people that have graduated, have left the club, or maybe they haven't paid dues. And then so they'll complete once the membership has been completed, they can print out an invoice, which they will then send to you as the treasurer. And then that's when you can pay for dues. As it shows, you click on the Finances tab, and you'll have the option to print your invoice and pay by mail, or you can pay online by credit card. So when you make the initial payment it'll be whatever amount, but you can still continue to add members and then pay dues for them throughout the year. It's only uh, $10 extra per new member. And so for some more tips, um, you want to avoid sending people Excel documents. Google Sheets is better to share final documents just because um, it's like on the internet, and so it's just easier to share it. You want to include a spot on your documents showing when they were last updated, just so that you know that, like, if it was last updated on like a month ago, but you haven't done anything in 2 months, that you know that someone had edited something. Your title should be specific, include the date, time, and period, just so that if someone on the outside were to look at it, they know exactly like what they're looking at when something happened. And then make sure you add everything to your Google Drive. You want to be organized. You want to um, just be organized and know where to find everything. So if someone were to share with you an Excel sheet, um, you can easily convert it to a Google Sheet um, by right-clicking on the file and then opening it in Google Sheets, and then it'll easily convert everything on Google Sheets, and then you can properly put it into where it belongs in your Google Drive. Um, and if someone shares with you something on Google Drive um, and you want to add it to your own personal drive, there's the option up at the title to add it to your drive. Some more tips as treasurer. You want to deposit cash and properly document all bank account transactions immediately, because you don't want someone to pay dues or whatever and you're just kind of waiting on it and possibly forget about it. So you want to make sure you do it as soon as possible. Um, this says use Excel, but like I said, use Google Sheets just so um, it's easier to visualize all the payments that have been made, any expenses, and any pieces of income that you're getting. And then you want to limit the access to checks. So um, maybe limit it to just yourself and the club president, because you don't want some person you don't trust to be handling the money. So that's it for the treasurer part of the presentation. Does anybody have any questions about what I've gone over so far? All right. Um, I will move on to the handling finances uh, section. So, like before, uh, this presentation will be shared after SOTC in a recap email. So be sure to look at it for any additional information for each slide. And so, what will be covered in this is preparing and maintaining a budget, dues, and then finally fundraising. So first off, preparing and maintaining an annual budget. So I know at face value this looks like a lot, but once you understand it, it's not that difficult. Um, so you want to have two different sections. You want to have income and expenses. Uh, Income is obviously um, when you receive money, and then expenses is when you spend money. Um, so with this, you want to have 5 different columns. The first column is planning. So this will be done at the beginning of the service year, um, and so like for example in this example, uh, the we're planning to get $840 from membership dues, um, and that's based on how much you are charging for dues, and then how many members you expect to have. And then the second column is the actual, which is what you actually end up getting. The third column is the variance, which basically means the difference between the planning and the actual. And so when you're planning, you want to make sure that you kind of want to be very conservative, and like you kind of want to be harsh, because let's say your club has 10 members, you don't want to, as great as it would be to to plan for 20 members next year, that'd be very difficult to have. So you don't want to plan to have 20 members. Um, and so the fourth column is the favorable, unfavorable. This is basically if the actual is less than the planning, then it's unfavorable, meaning that you got less than your planning. Favorable means that the actual was more than the planning, so you received more than you were expecting. Um, and so it's the same thing for expenses, just opposite. If it's favorable, then uh, you spent less than you expected, and if it's unfavorable, you spent more than expected. And then so the fifth column is basically for notes. Um, this is basically so like again, if like someone from the outside who maybe doesn't even know what Circle K is, if they're looking at this, they are able to fully understand like where you got these numbers. And because you don't want to just like especially when planning, you don't want to just get these, you don't want to just pull numbers out of thin air. You want to have a reasoning for why you expect to get that amount or why you expect to spend that amount. So like again, as an example for the member dues, um, if you're expecting 24 members at a 35 a year discount, um, they would end up being $840. But then the actual, you got 21 members, um, 16 of which had $35 a year, and then 5 had $20 a semester. Um, that would end up getting you $665, meaning you got $175 less than what you expected, making it unfavorable. So here is the breakdown for your annual dues. So this is the chart that International provides for where all the international dues go. 32. So, and then so here's just a easy to look at graph, and then here I'll go over more explanation of what they go towards. 32% of international dues go into leadership training, and this is the Governors and Administrators Training Conference and various other training opportunities. 23% go to travel and visits, which would mean visits from CKI board members to districts, board members' transportation to board meetings and conventions. Obviously, uh, the budget has been a little different this year because of COVID. Hopefully, next year, uh, things will get back to normal. Um, and so, stuff like travel and visits would actually uh, happen. 16% goes to member services. This includes pins, cards, handbooks, and stuff like that for members. Basically, little like stuff to support CKI. 16% goes to marketing promotion. This includes the CKI magazine, any marketing materials for CKI, and public relations and promotional materials for clubs. 10% goes to administrative stuff such as phone fees, office supplies, legal fees, and in-house printing for the international board. And then 3% goes to conventions, which would be the awards that are given out at conventions, the parliamentarian costs, and program events. So international, there's 3 different categories. when determining how much a club has to pay for international dues. First off is if your club is from a 4-year university with over 5,000 students, your international dues will be $600. If your school is a 4-year institution with under 5,000, it's only $450. If it is a 2-year community college, then the dues will be $300. So now, where do the district dues go? We have our district convention, which this year's was 2 weeks ago. We have our training conferences, such as this one. Usually these are in person, so the cost would go to the in person version. This one, we didn't have to do that. And then, as well as officer travel and visits, um, so that the board officers can visit clubs and participate in their events when we're able to. So with the international dues and the district dues, um, you obviously just add those together um, to get the total amount of dues. Um, so, for example, George Mason, uh, being a 4-year institution with over 5,000 students, their international dues would be $600. Let's say they had 20 members at $10 per member, that's $200. So then 600 plus 200 means their total annual dues for the year are $800. Um, so important dates for paying dues. Um, you can begin paying dues for 2021 October 1st. The early bird deadline is November 1st, and the regular deadline is December 1st. Um, this is what it usually is. With COVID this year, uh, the regular deadline was pushed back to January 5th, and then some clubs were also given um, a certain status, which means that they either had a payment plan or they just or their um, deadline got extended. If your club is running into trouble with paying your dues, um, just make sure that you reach out to the district board, um, our international trustee, and they should be able to help you out however they can to make sure that your club can pay dues. Some consequences for not paying dues: um, you don't receive any awards, no scholarships at decon or the international convention. You can't receive service funding grants from Circle K. Um, you can't run for international or district office, and uh, if it if it's multiple years in a row, your club will be suspended. Um, so here are some tips for fundraising and paying your annual dues. Um, so you want to divide costs among the members, which is basically them paying their dues. Um, you want to make sure that you're in good contact with your sponsoring Kiwanis Club, and then you also want to try to reach out to your school's uh, SGA, see if they would be willing to uh, donate funds so that you can pay your dues. So here's some tips to how to ask your Kiwanis Club for funding. You want to attend a minimum of 3 Kiwanis meetings, one before you ask, one when you ask, and one after you ask. This is so that they don't see it as you just asking for money. You want to show that you are involved and invested in what they're doing, so then maybe they would be more considering to uh, provide money to your club. Um, You also want to show them your budget and highlight the calculated deficit. So let's say you wanted to have a service event that to get the supplies for it's $100 or something like that. You want to tell them like we need $100, and these are the specific things that we're going to use the $100 for, supplies and whatever else you need. You want to emphasize the large annual district and international fee and how your club is already spreading itself thin, charging dues and fundraising. Um, so yeah, like they understand that you have to pay dues as well, and so you just want to emphasize like those dues are so much. Um, this small donation would really help us a lot in getting us able to do what we want to do. And you want to make sure you have a bottom line, but don't reveal it. Meaning, like, you want to have an amount of money in mind that, like, this is the minimum amount of money that we'd be willing to accept in order to do whatever event we want to do. Um, but then we would still like this amount, but then this is the absolute lowest we would want to go. Otherwise, uh, we don't think we'd be able to have that event. So some ways to incentivize your members paying dues. Um, you want to set a deadline for a discount if that's possible, and or have late fees. So if you pay before the early bird fee, maybe it's $5 less. If you are late, then maybe it's an extra $5. Um, Another suggestion could be to charge a semesterly fee. Um, so some people maybe don't want to pay $40 all at once for a year. Maybe they would be more comfortable paying 20 years and $20 in the fall and then $20 in the spring. Um, it would just make it easier for your members to be able to pay dues. Um, and then as an incentive to pay dues, you can restrict service events or even fellowship events to dues paid members only. So unless you pay dues, you can't participate. Um, so when you're calculating how much to charge each member, you want to try to estimate how many members you'll have, and then um, calculate how much international and district dues are going to be, and then you want to divide the total fee by your estimated membership to sort of get a understanding of how much you should charge for dues. So like if your international and district dues are $800 and you expect 20 members, then um, you may want to charge $40 for members to be in your club. For some people that could be a lot. Um, so if you want to make it lower, you also have to make sure that you are able to find other ways to raise money. Um, so included in the slides are a calculator to determine how much you should charge your members for dues. It basically goes over the formula that I just explained, and so uh, once this PowerPoint is shared, you're more than welcome to uh, go over this yourself and try to figure out how much you want to charge for dues. So if you don't have enough funding from Kiwanis, if you don't get enough funding from your club members paying dues, the next the next way, next best way to get money is by holding fundraisers. So some possible ideas, from most to least effective. You can have a bake sale. You can have raffles. Um, you can sell various items such as Krispy Kreme donuts and Yankee candles. You can collect and turn in old ink cartridges, um, and or you can hold a restaurant fundraiser. Um, so for these kind of things, you also need to make sure that um, it's something that your school will allow. For example, uh, I go to George Mason, and so we can't do a Krispy Kreme fundraiser because for whatever reason we can't buy a box of like 12 donuts and sell people individual donuts. Anything that we sell has to be in an individualized package. So if we sell one donut, it has to be in its own box. So we can't really do like a Krispy Kreme fundraiser. Um, and also from personal experience, uh, George Mason has done a restaurant fundraiser. And the reason why those are the least effective is that you can never really be too sure that they'll give you the money that you're supposed to get. We did a fundraiser at a local pizza place, and we were supposed to get 10% of any funds they received within like a 3 hour window. And even my mom came to like buy food, and so she got a lot of food to support us, and we only ended up getting like $3 from all of that. And so sometimes restaurant fundraisers can be effective, but at least from my personal experience, you may want to avoid them. um, some tips for when you're holding fundraisers: you want to be confident. um, you don't want to wait for the customers to come to you. um, Oftentimes, if you're doing it on campus or something, uh, people are just going to walk right by you most of the time. Um, you want to have a speech ready in case anyone asks you what your club is or what you're raising money for. So just have a little bit of dialogue ready to explain what Circle K is, what Circle K does, and then explain what you're raising the money for, whether it be dues. You want to have a good fellowship event, a good service event that you're planning, and you also want to promote and prepare them well in advance. So that would be like post it on social media, post about it on social media, make sure, um, and then make sure that anybody who is involved with the fundraiser is uh, knows what they're doing and what needs to be done to make sure it goes well. Um, so, like I said, when you want to promote it, uh, social media is best way to do that. Um, if you're not getting direct like cash donations, you can also receive donations using crowdfunding websites. So GoFundMe, Fundly, and Classy are all good examples of those. Um, so if you make a post on Facebook, you want to use an image or graphic that represents your cause or your fundraiser. You want to link to the crowdfunding page. If you're using a hashtag, those are always effective. Um, and then you also want a little bit of dialogue of why you're asking for donations. So here's a little bit of a template. I'm raising money for Circle K service event. I've raised $100 so far, but I still need $200 to completely reach my goal. Would you consider making a donation? Even small gifts help to assist me in my fundraising efforts. Um, and then also be sure to encourage people to share the post um, with their friends and stuff to try to get as many eyes as possible on the post. So here's a little example. Um, since it has a picture, it really catches the eye of like, okay, what's this picture for? Um, it's day 2 of our Fundly campaign. Help us fill this table with mealtime dishware to feed hungry kids breakfast. You're concise on what you're raising money for, and you have the link right at the bottom so that anybody that sees that is able to donate if they can. You can also post about your stuff on Twitter if your club has a Twitter account. Um, again, you want to have an image that represents your cause or your project, a brief description of the fundraiser. Twitter obviously has a limit of under 280 characters. You want a relevant hashtag so that maybe people not even associated with the account can possibly find it, as well as a mention of the organization you're raising money for, and again, the URL to the crowdfunding page. Here's another just template of what your post can look like. Help me raise money. I only need whatever amount to reach my goal. So here's an example of that. And then probably what your club uses the most, Instagram. You definitely want to make sure you have professional looking photos. You want a brief to detailed description. Since links cannot be posted in an Instagram post, you would have to post it in your club's bio on Instagram, and make sure that you mention that like the link to donate is in your bio, and then again, relevant hashtag. And then here's another template. I'm raising money. I need help. So here's an example of that. The pictures represent what the money is being raised for, and then a mention of the link is in the bio for the fundraising page. So another way you can fundraise is through mailing letters or sending emails. People you would ask for donations, ask your family or friends first. You can also ask local or small businesses as well as corporations. So usually when asking companies for a donation, you want to talk to the corporate social responsibility department or the manager. And you want to make sure that you know what you're asking for. So like how much money you're asking for, make sure to tell them what the money's for. If you're writing a letter, you want to prepare yourself for follow-up conversations in case they have any questions for why should they give you money, why are they giving you money. You want to emphasize what they will get out of donating. Maybe you'll give them a shout out on your social media, something like that. You also want to offer to set up a meeting so that you can talk face to face with the person. And then you want to ask for a particular amount of whatever you're looking for. So here's kind of an example of what your email or letter could look like. And so why write a letter? It's detailed, it's formal, and it also gives your donor time to think and consider your request. Um, if it's if it's just an email, um, they could just never get read, and um, whereas if the person you're asking donations from has a physical letter, they already have like an attachment to it, and so they are more likely to actually like consider your request. Um, so tips for writing a letter: you want it to be around 1 or 2 pages, not too long. You want to make it personalized, so you don't want to just follow a template. Um, you want to get to the point, so introduce yourself and the fundraiser, ask for the donation, uh, tell them where the money is going, as well as thank them for their time, because they're taking time out of their busy day to read a letter asking for money. So the least you can do is thank them. And so if you actually get donations this way, you will likely want to send out cards or letters, make posts on social media, or send a personalized email, or you could do any combination of all three. So the best times to ask for donations would be the cause months. So like October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And so if you're doing some kind of service event for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, a company will be more likely to donate money because they know it's for a cause, um, as well as the end of the year, so November and December, because with the holidays rolling around, people are more likely to be in giving moods, and so um, they will be more likely to help you out and donate to your club. Um, so here is a little template for a general donation request. Um, when the uh, presentation is sent out, you can see or you can look more into it. But it is important to make sure it's personalized um, as much as you can. Um, here's a template for if you're doing it for a corporation. Um, and again, you want to make it as personalized as possible where you can. Um, when this is shared, you can click on this link to see other templates for fundraising letters. And then as a final way to receive money, the Circle K International has the Tomorrow Fund, which is for service projects. You can receive anywhere from $200 to $2,000. Basically, you have from October 1st to December 1st to contact Circle K International board to tell them about a service project you would like to participate in. And similarly to what I've talked about already, you want to tell them how much money you think you would need, how much money you already have, um, like where the money would be going and stuff like that. And if you're accepted, then you'll receive some extra funds from Circle K International. So we have 11 minutes left. Thank you for watching or thank you for listening to my presentation. Good luck to you all this service year. And does anybody have any questions about anything I've gone over?
Hi.
Hi.
You mentioned that restaurants aren't like a good idea for fundraising. But do you think like maybe bigger corporation restaurants, like maybe a Chipotle fundraiser would be more beneficial than a local restaurant?
So like I said, like from my experience, restaurant fundraisers haven't been great. I would imagine that like the bigger restaurants would be um, better for that. Um, I think my club did a Chipotle fundraiser once, and it was all right. It wasn't. We didn't get that much money. Um, we've also had one at Buffalo Wild Wings that was successful, but that is we one of our members actually worked there, so obviously they didn't want to give us less than what we deserved. So it really depends on the restaurant. Um, just from my personal experience, most of the time they don't go as expected. Anybody else? So if there are no other questions, we can go back to the main room and continue SOTC. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.